Hi, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us for CFP Board's Business Update webinar. I'm Kevin Keller, CFP Board's CEO. We have a lot of material to cover today, so we're going to jump right in, but we'll do the best that we can to devote as much time as possible to answering your questions. Today, we'll hear updates from the latest Board of Directors meeting with an update on where we are with the proposed changes to the standards of professional conduct that went out for public comment last December. We'll have updates on some of the results we achieved in the 2017 toward our strategic priorities. I'll share an update on our 2018 plans for the public awareness campaign to increase awareness of CFP professionals and CFP certification, and we'll answer your questions. So we hope that all of you who are listening will share your questions and thoughts with us. Before we get started with today's presentation, let me cover a few housekeeping items. If you run into issues with the audio for this presentation, or if it seems like the slides might be out of sync, try refreshing your webinar console. There is a Q&A function on your screen that you can use to submit questions to us at any time during the program. We'll try to address as many questions as possible during the Q&A session at the end of the program, and if we don't get to your question today during the broadcast, CFP Board will follow up and provide an answer to you. With me here today are Richard Salmen, 2018 Chair of the Board of Directors, and Susan John, Chair-elect. Thank you all for joining us. Today we're broadcasting from Arlington, Virginia. I think here in the D.C. area we call it Crystal City. It's right across the road from National Airport, where our Board of Directors just wrapped up its first in-person meeting for the year. Richard, why don't you take us through some of the updates?
Thank you, Kevin. As Kevin said, the Board of Directors just met for the past few days. This was the first meeting for 3 CFP professionals just joining us as Board Directors: Susan Barron, Ed Moore, and Martin Seamus. We are pleased to have all 3 of them on board. We also had some special guests at this week's meeting, including leadership from the Financial Planning Association, Frank Ferre, who is the 2018 FPA President, and Lauren Shadle, FPA CEO. From the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, we had Jeff Brown, who is CEO of NAPFA, and Scott Bowden, NAPFA's chair. All of us at CFP Board appreciate our relationship with FPA and NAPFA and value opportunities for our leadership to meet in person. To ensure that we have a strong and relevant profession, it is important to have our organizations working together. We work closely with FPA and NAPFA on a number of issues, including through the Financial Planning Coalition, which has been a leading advocate for the delivery of financial advice under a fiduciary standard. And all of us at CFP Board encourage all CFP professionals to consider joining FPA and the profession's other leading membership organization, NAPFA. So you may have noticed that this webinar is taking place a bit earlier than in past years. We typically hold our first board meeting of the year in March in CFP Board's offices. This year, we chose to hold it in February in Arlington, Virginia, so that the entire board could visit and participate in 2 of CFP Board's major events: the Academic Colloquium for Financial Planning and Related Disciplines and the CFP Board Registered Program Conference. The first of those events, the Academic Research Colloquium for Financial Planning and Related Disciplines, is hosted by the CFP Board Center for Financial Planning in cooperation with Financial Planning Standards Council of Canada and the International Financial Planning Standards Board. This international meeting provides a showcase for research in financial planning and other disciplines that directly or indirectly relate to the financial planning body of knowledge or practice. It is a forum for researchers, practitioners, graduate students to gather and share and learn from rigorous and relevant research. The first colloquium was held last year in February 2017, and that inaugural event brought together about 200 academics and researchers. The paper acceptance rate for that first event was only 30%, establishing the colloquium from the start as a very competitive venue for the presentation of research. This year's colloquium wrapped up earlier today, and it was another great success. It featured 6 keynote sessions with accepted papers and posters spanning a wide range of topic and content areas that directly or indirectly relate to financial planning practice, and included 5 Best Paper Awards. In addition to serving as a launch pad for the latest in the Center's Financial Planning book series, a book on client psychology, the Colloquium included an important session with the editorial board of the Center's new academic journal, the Financial Planning Review, which will publish its first edition mid-year. All of us on the board were happy to have the chance to attend and see this important event, which is an important avenue for the profession's academics to share original research and contribute to the profession's body of knowledge. The second event of our board meeting this week coincided with the CFP Board Registered Program Conference. This annual conference brings together faculty and program directors from institutions around the country that deliver professional financial planning education and assist individuals in pursuing CFP certification. This year's event is still underway and will wrap up tomorrow. The conference features presentations and conversations about issues of importance to our profession, and this year's agenda was no different. They held a roundtable discussion with executives from top firms who are potential employers for our registered program students and graduates. And there were sessions demonstrating a new online portal for CFP Board registered programs and discussing pro bono work and service learning at registered programs. We are grateful to our registered programs for their support of financial planning education. Their programs satisfy requirements for CFP certification, but just as importantly, they are a foundation of the financial planning profession. The number of degree-granting CFP Board registered programs has grown dramatically over the past 10 years. And degree-granting programs now represent a majority of our programs, reflecting growing recognition of financial planning as a distinct discipline. The options of our academic leaders have great influence, the opinions, of our academic leaders have great influence within the profession. Last month, it was a pleasure to see a group of these important leaders share publicly their support of CFP certification and a fiduciary standard that puts a client's interest first at all times. I trust that many of you were as pleased as we were with the public letter featured in the January 29th edition of Investment News. This letter was signed by 21 academic leaders who oversee the nation's top baccalaureate degree-granting CFP Board registered programs at universities and college. Under the headline, "We support CFP certification and fiduciary advice," the statement reiterates that support and concludes with this statement. We strongly encourage our students and graduates to pursue careers at financial services firms that support the highest standards of CFP certification and embrace fiduciary advice. That is a strong and unequivocal statement in support of the work the board is undertaking in support of CFP Board's mission. Firms that embrace the high standards for their CFP professionals send a strong message to their current and future clients and advisors that they believe in competent, ethical financial planning. Our board meeting this week also included a preliminary review of the comments CFP Board received on our proposed revisions to our standards of professional conduct. The latest review of the standards is part of our work to ensure the standards maintain the value, integrity, and relevance of the CFP certification. We released an initial proposed revision last June for a 60-day comment period. We asked for feedback via email and through a survey, and in total, we received more than 1,300 written comments from CFP professionals, membership organizations, and industry associations, as well as members of the public and consumer advocacy organizations. After the conclusion of the public comment period, the Commission on Standards reviewed the feedback received during the comment period and identified a number of areas in the proposed draft standards that might be addressed more effectively. The Commission submitted recommendations to the board last November, and on December 20th, the board released a revised proposal for a public comment that ended earlier this month. More than 150 individuals and organizations provided written comments on that revised proposal. We appreciate everyone who took time to review the proposal and submit comments during one or both of the comment periods. The revisions are a top-to-bottom rewrite of the current standards, with consolidation of some elements and expansion of others, including major updates to the practice standards and the application of a fiduciary duty to all financial advice. So we have an important decision ahead of us. The Commission on Standards is currently working on its review of the feedback we received, and they will present recommendations to the board in the coming weeks. The board expects to make a decision by the end of March, and we look forward to sharing that with you. When we released the revised proposal, we shared that if we adopt revised standards in the spring, we anticipate setting an effective date of January 1, 2019 for the new standards. That gives our CFP professionals time to incorporate the new standards in their practices, as well as time for education partners to update their courses to address the new standards. With the proposed schedule we've set out, we are already working with our continuing education sponsors who provide programs on CFP Board's education standards on a plan that will ensure that we have CE offerings on the new standards in place before the second part of the year. And we'll be working to educate our CFP professionals and other stakeholders about the new standards from the time they are released through the time they become effective. If you haven't yet taken a look at the revised proposed standards we released in December, I would encourage you to do so. You can find the proposal and several reference documents on our website at cfp.net/proposed-standards. While the proposal may not reflect exactly what the board eventually adopts as final, I think you will find the annotated document very informative. It gives context for the changes, explains the rationale for some of the most important changes, and addresses many of the comments we received on the original proposal. CFP Board standards for ethics and practice are an essential part of the CFP certification, an important element of the public's trust and confidence in CFP professionals. We undertook a thoughtful and deliberative process for revising the standards, with many opportunities for public comment during this multi-year process. The board has important decisions to make about the proposed revisions, and we will look forward to sharing an update with you in the coming weeks. Now, let me turn things over to Susan, who can share some more about the strategic priorities the Board of Directors has established for the organization.
Thank you, Richard. CFP Board's work to uphold strong ethical standards in all of the work we do is directly tied to our mission and our strategic priorities. In late 2016, the Board of Directors adopted what we call the 4 A's, a set of priorities that give us a strategic plan for the next few years. The 4 strategic priorities are awareness, access, accountability, and authority, and each is tied to CFP Board's mission to benefit the public. The first is awareness. Growing awareness of CFP certification as the recognized standard for competent and ethical financial planners. The second is access. Expanding access to competent and ethical financial planning by increasing the number and diversity of CFP professionals. Third is accountability. Assuring accountability by holding CFP professionals to rigorous standards and by advocating for fiduciary advice, recognition of financial planning as a profession, and effective regulation of financial planners. The fourth is authority, serving as the respected authority for the profession by setting standards, certifying financial planners, and by advancing the Center for Financial Planning. Richard shared a number of our achievements in the first year of this strategic plan related mostly to our accountability and authority priorities. We've made significant progress towards other priorities as well. We're very pleased to have reached a significant milestone at the end of 2017. The number of CFP professionals in the United States exceeded 80,000 for the first time ever. To be exact, we ended 2017 with 80,035 CFP professionals. The year-over-year number represent growth of 4.3% over 2016, our highest growth rate since 2012. And if we look back to April 2007, when Kevin Keller began as CEO, we see growth of more than 46%. In recent years, CFP Board has also been focused on increasing the diversity of our CFP professionals. The chart here shows a breakdown of our female CFP professionals. 2017 ended with 18,578 female CFP professionals, representing growth of 4.6% over 2016. And 2017 was a record year for new female CFP professionals. More than 1,250 women achieving initial CFP certification. That's a net increase of 814 women CFP professionals, and it's our highest score since 2006. When the board set out our strategic priorities for the organization, we stated that our desire for growth was not at the expense of our standards. In recent years, we've actually strengthened the rigor and integrity of the certification process in a number of ways. We added a capstone course requirement that requires candidates to prepare a financial plan before they become certified. We migrated the CFP exam to a computer-based format while retaining the exam's validity, reliability, and legal defensibility. And we implemented a CE Quality Improvement Initiative to raise the quality of continuing education available to CFP professionals. We've been able to achieve this growth largely through increased candidate engagement. During the past year, CFP Board staff really raised the bar on engagement programs. More than 5,000 candidates were reached through outbound consulting calls during 2017. The online CFP Board Candidate Forum, launched in 2016, continues to be a primary resource for candidates with more than 58,000 daily subscribers and 1,600 unique contributors in 2017. We developed guidelines to help exam candidates take an active role in their exam preparation and success, and that includes the 2017 release of an exam candidate preparation tool. The CFP Board Career Center, launched in 2014, also continues to generate opportunities. Candidates can secure internships and jobs that meet CFP Board's experience requirement. More than 850 candidates have posted their resumes on the site. During 2017, the Win to Win, Women to Women program, which supports women through the initial certification process, saw more than 700 women engage with experienced CFP professionals for mentoring. And last year alone, we had an all-time high of over 16,900 candidates who created new accounts with the CFP Board. New accounts are the first indication we have of a person's interest in becoming certified, so that's an important indicator of future growth. An important part of our access priority is related to diversity. The mission of our CFP Board Center for Financial Planning is to create a more diverse and sustainable financial planning profession so that every American has access to competent and ethical financial planning advice. And the center is seeking to address lack of gender and racial diversity in the financial planning profession by attracting and developing financial planners who are more representative of the diverse population they serve. You've heard us talk about CFP Board's Women's Initiative, which we launched in 2013 to increase the number of women CFP professionals. The percentage of women CFP professionals has remained flat at 23% for over a decade. Since then, our initiatives to increase the number of women entering the financial planning profession, including the number of women CFP professionals, have made an impact. In addition to the CFP professionals involved in our Win-to-Win mentorship program, more than 400 CFP professionals have signed up to be a WIN advocate. WIN advocates work in their communities to get the word out that financial planning can be a rewarding career for women. Given the success of the WIN program, we are leveraging that approach to begin to address racial diversity as well. Our I'm a CFP Pro campaign is focused on reaching young people who may be interested in financial planning as a career. The campaign is focused especially on women and people of color. The campaign's website, cfppro.org, is full of content designed for young adults with videos and Instagram feeds and easy-to-share content. We encourage you to look for opportunities to share the content with young people who may be interested in financial planning careers. There are a number of ways you can get involved with this important campaign. You can visit the website, tell your story through social media using hashtag CFPPro, encourage the career service people at your firm or your alma mater to visit the CFPPro.org site and educate their employees, students, and alumni about careers in financial planning. And don't hesitate to get in touch with our career staff, with our center staff, if you'd like them to help in reaching out to your contacts. We're also working on initiatives focused specifically on increasing the number of African Americans and Latinos among financial planners and CFP professionals. The center has engaged African American and Latino CFP professionals to commit to serve as inaugural champions to help us develop and implement programs to advance racial diversity in the profession. An important, exciting step in that process will take place this October. At the Times Center in New York City, the center will hold the Diversity Summit. The inaugural summit will serve as a springboard for discussion and action on the important topic of racial diversity and inclusion in the financial planning profession. During the event, the center will release a thought leadership paper. The paper will examine causes and provide research-based recommendations for addressing the underrepresentation of African Americans and Latinos in the financial planning profession. We're seeking participation from financial firm executives with responsibilities related to diversity and inclusion, leaders of influencer organizations that can reach diverse populations, and practitioners interested in advancing diversity in the profession. So if you're interested in participating in the summit or know individuals who would be interested, please contact Eddie Demarovic at the email address you see here. We also have some great initiatives in support of our authority strategic priority through the center. The center's Academic Home initiative is focused on opportunities for showcasing and publishing new research, adding to the financial planning body of knowledge, and supporting tenure and promotion of financial planning faculty. The goal of these activities is to create more financial planning programs at colleges and universities, more students, and ultimately more qualified professionals entering the workforce. Last May, we hosted a groundbreaking teaching seminar with Columbia University. The program was designed for faculty who teach in a CFP Board registered program, as well as CFP professionals looking to become adjunct or full-time instructors. Last year's offering was held on campus at Columbia University in New York City. And this year, we're pleased to offer the seminar on the other side of the country in San Francisco on June 4 through 8. Registration is now open for the 2018 Financial Planning Teaching Seminar, and you can find more information at the website listed here.
Susan, thank you very much. So we've had, when I'm out on the road, I hear a fair amount of interest in this Columbia teaching seminar. And I think it's something we should just take a minute to talk about. We have so many CFP professionals who are passionate about financial planning and want to teach, but may not come naturally or may not have teaching skills. This is a course that teaches people how to teach financial planning. And I was at this session last summer at Columbia University. It was sponsored by Columbia. The session in San Francisco, even though it's on the other side of the country, is also sponsored by Columbia University. So participants will get a certificate for completion from Columbia University, even though it's in San Francisco. As I said, we had great feedback from everyone who participated in the seminar. We had 35 or 40 people, and I would expect another great group in June in San Francisco. The impetus for the center was to make the most of CFP Board's unique position in the financial services industry, which puts us at the crossroads of the people and organizations that can work together to achieve great things for the profession. As the professional designation for financial planning, CFP certification plays an important role in facilitating entry to the financial planning profession. And the CFP mark is the symbol for competent and ethical, client-focused financial advice. CFP Board has worked hard over the years to establish CFP certification as the standard of professionalism for financial planning, and I'm proud of what CFP Board has accomplished toward its mission to benefit the public by granting and upholding CFP certification. The CFP marks are recognized as the standard of excellence, and the CFP certification process is recognized as a valid and rigorous path to achieving professionalism as a personal financial planner. And we know that CFP certification provides tangible value to those who hold it, as well as to their clients and to the firms with which they are affiliated. CFP professionals represent the most productive and most successful advisors. Research that the independent firm ITE conducted in 2012 and then again in 2016 showed that CFP professionals outperform non-CFP professionals across just about any metric, including solo practice revenue, team revenue, and share of high net worth clients, to name just a few. And the CFP certification brand is strong, providing value to those who hold it and serving as a meaningful differentiator of quality financial advice within the profession and among the public. We appreciate everyone who supports CFP certification. You know, as a certifying body and with many different stakeholders, the contributions of the CFP community and the opinions of CFP certificants are important to us. Here you see some of the results from our periodic survey of CFP professionals and its questions about what CFP Board's top priorities should be. We continue to see that CFP professionals have two clear priorities for us. The first is building and promoting the CFP brand, and the second is enforcing the standards for use of CFP certification. Richard shared about the important work we're doing to strengthen the relevance of our standards of professional conduct, and Susan talked about the successes we've had in growing our CFP professional community, the people who represent and uphold CFP certification. We have a number of activities underway in support of our awareness goal, designed to strengthen CFP certification and increase awareness of CFP professionals. This feedback we received from CFP professionals through this semi-annual survey is actually one of the factors that led us to develop our public awareness campaign, which was originally launched way back in 2011. The public awareness campaign has been a great success, and we saw a doubling of unaided awareness of CFP certification among our target audience after the campaign's first 4 years. You can see here the number for total brand awareness, unaided awareness, and top-of-mind awareness. In 2017, our brand tracking study found unaided awareness of CFP certification among our target audience, which you see depicted here in the bronze color, is at 27%. That is lower than the peak we reached in 2015, but still a full 10 percentage points higher than it was before we launched the campaign. And total awareness, depicted here in the gold bar, remains steady between 2016 and 2017 at 86%, the highest level it has ever achieved. We've invested more than $73 million in the campaign since its inception, yet the campaign's annual budget of just almost $12 million equals less than 1% of the paid advertising in the financial services sector. So when you think about that, all of the advertising for banks, brokerages, and insurance companies is more than 99%. We're less than 1% of that total amount. Last year, the campaign advertising generated more than 1 billion impressions, and our paid campaign advertising is supplemented by active, what we call earned media activities. In 2017 alone, our 17,000 plus earned media placements generated an estimated reach of nearly 10 billion impressions with an estimated advertising equivalency of $94 million. Direct and organic traffic to the campaign website, which is letsmakeaplan.org, has increased year over year since the campaign's inception, with more than 750,000 visits during 2017. As the campaign has evolved over the last 2 years, we've seen awareness start to level off. So we are currently in the process of setting the strategic and creative direction of a new campaign. You see here a broad overview of the process and schedule for the new campaign development. The goal is to deliver an integrated campaign that enhances the value of CFP Certification's brand and reinforces its image as a symbol of financial planning excellence and fiduciary advice. We completed our market research last fall. The research included surveys and interviews with CFP professionals, as well as with consumers in our target group. The consumer interviews, some with people who have never worked with a financial planner, and others who are engaged with a CFP professional, were especially enlightening and provided some great insights that will inform the development of the new creative campaign. Development of the new campaign will take us through the spring of 2018. This means that for 2018, we won't have the large flight of advertising in the spring as we've had in past years. Production of the new campaign is expected to be completed at the end of the spring, with ad placements beginning in the fall. But that doesn't mean that the campaign is going quiet. We will continue to communicate the value of CFP certification actively in social media, through the press, and across other channels. As I mentioned, last year alone, the value of our earned media was an estimated $94 million. CFP Board visibility and stories appear not only in the trade media, but in the mainstream media such as the New York Times, the USA Today, the Washington Post, and others. We are excited about a new campaign. Most people liked the DJ, some didn't, but we will be working on a new campaign, again, that you'll see this fall. So I think that takes us to questions. Before we turn the program over to questions from the listeners, though, I also wanted to mention how CFP Board will be addressing the recent tax law changes. As I just announced about an hour and a half ago at our registered program conference, July of 2018 will be the last year, the last exam for the old tax law. That means beginning in November of 2018, we will begin testing the new tax law. I called my friends at AICPA to see how they were handling it, and we were on a similar schedule for that. It's a big change, though, for our item writers, because about 25% of the items in one form or another touch on the tax law, and each of those items will have to be reviewed, updated. We'll need to have subject matter experts look very carefully to make sure that we have those correct. So I think we're ready to go to the questions. Why don't we start with James? James didn't give us his last name, but he asks, Why are you pushing the fiduciary standard when being asked by CFPA to hold off until the SEC rule is published? Roger asks a question. FINRA says hold off on your changes. What do you say? Well, I'm not sure what Roger's talking about there because we had Robert Cook, the CEO of FINRA, speak to our board yesterday, and we've had no such request from FINRA, so I'm not sure what Roger was asking. But Richard, why don't you take that question?
All right, Kevin, thank you. Well, I want to reiterate that the board has already done, as I said earlier, a preliminary review of all 150-plus comment letters that we received as a result of the second comment period. And the commission is reconvening next week. They've been meeting in subcommittees, but the entire commission is reconvening early next week to review the comments and to provide a recommendation to the board for later in March. The thing I would like you to understand is that while regulations provide minimum standards, certification bodies like CFP Board advance professional standards. That is a significant difference. As longtime advocates for a fiduciary standard for all financial advice, we believe that there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. We appreciate that CFPA and FSI have made public statements recognizing the need for a heightened standard for investment advice. But you must remember, it was back in 2010 when the Dodd-Frank legislation authorized the Securities and Exchange Commission to move forward with a fiduciary standard. Now, 8 years later, we're hearing that it's likely that the SEC will have a proposed rule out sometime this year, but that timeline is not guaranteed. The board believes that its proposed revised fiduciary standard is a workable standard for all CFP professionals and what the public expects from an advisor. A financial planner may comply with the standard by acting in the best interest of the client. We have CFP professionals working in all types of business models who are adhering to our current fiduciary standard that's been around for 10 years for financial planning services. And the revision process we've gone through has been designed to ensure that our standards continue to be relevant for all CFP professionals. For example, when we formed the Commission on Standards, we sought members who operate in a wide variety of business models so that they would better understand how potential changes would apply to each of these business models, Kevin.
Richard, thank you. Thank you very much. Lee writes in, and she asks, and Susan, I think I'm going to direct this one to you.
Okay.
Lee asks, are CFPs that are in management positions that approve or disapprove product recommendations for agents in the field held to the CFP fiduciary standard for those approvals?
Well, that's a great question, Lee. Our current standards hold CFP professionals to a fiduciary standard when they provide financial planning to clients. The proposed standards would extend that fiduciary duty to when a CFP professional provides financial planning, financial advice to a client. You'll note that both of those requirements focus on services that CFP professionals provide to their clients. CFP Board will be developing guidance documents for the revised standards, and we plan to create those with input from CFP professionals across all business models. We look forward to working with CFP professionals at all types of firms and operating within different business models.
Susan, thank you very much. Edward has a question, and I think it's probably one that I can handle from the staff perspective. Why stop the correspondence courses or distance learning courses for CFP Board ethics courses? Edward, thank you for the question. CFP Board has been working on updating our ethics CE program. We are working with a group of experts in continuing education, curriculum developers, and experts on CFP Board's ethical standards. They are developing a package of content that will make it easier for CE sponsors to present these programs and also ensure that CFP professionals receive accurate and relevant education on our standards. We have been providing our CE sponsors with updates on this process and plan to have the new system in place this spring. And if updated standards are adopted this spring, the first set of package content will address the new standards. During this transition, we are allowing CE sponsors to continue providing live CFP Board ethics programs, but online and correspondence-based or distance learning courses have expired. We expect that both live and online distance learning CE courses will be created with the new content and be up and running approximately May 1st. Susan, a question for you. Vernell asks, how is robo-advisors or how are robo-advisor platforms affecting our industry for CFP professionals?
Well, that topic has certainly generated a lot of good discussion, including some important conversations about the value of human advice. The tools that robo-advice platforms provide can be a great help to CFP professionals. We're seeing more traditional firms embrace those tools and the efficiencies they can provide for their clients. At the same time, some of the firms leading robo-advice platforms have introduced options for assessing human advice as well. We do not think that the need for human advice is going away anytime soon. It's good that technology is developing and that the profession is engaged with those developments. I'd also note that while robo-advice may not be addressed specifically in the proposed revised standards, it's very possible that the guidance documents to be developed after final standards are adopted may include some specific references to robo-advice.
Thank you very much, Susan. Ferdinand, I guess, right, has a question. He has a long question. I'm going to try to summarize it. This has been a perennial question about, it comes up in various forms, CFP retired, some form of recognition for CFP professionals who've been around for some time, and or some reduced fee, perhaps, for people who've retired. So, Richard, I'll let you take that one.
Well, I'm certain that there are some of you out there listening on this webinar who've been part of requesting this, and I'm very pleased to share with you that this topic was part of the board's meeting agenda this week, and I believe we're closing in on a solution. I will say that I don't see us doing anything from a semi-retired standpoint. It's CFP Board's belief that if you are providing advice to clients and getting paid for it, then you should be subject to the continuing education requirements that have always been in place. And we've explained before that there are factors related to trademark law that can make this more complicated than it would seem. However, the board has now reviewed a proposal that we think may be a good option. We want to make sure it works for everyone, so we'll be reaching out in the near future for feedback from our CFP professionals. And while I don't have any final details to share with you today, I want you to know that this is an important topic for the board, and we've asked the staff to bring a proposal to us for our June board meeting. We value the service of our long-term CFP professionals and know that the profession will benefit greatly from your continued engagement after your retirement.
Yeah, we think there are lots of ways that CFP professionals, after they may have retired formally, can contribute, and among those are teaching, writing, and I know our friends at the Foundation for Financial Planning, John Dauphiné, who's the CEO there, I know he welcomes the volunteer efforts for providing pro bono financial advice. We have a question about the CFP Board Public Awareness Campaign for Susan, and Ralph asks, is the budget for the campaign increasing, decreasing, or staying the same?
Well, the budget for the Public Awareness Campaign will actually be slightly higher in 2018 than it was in 2017. The campaign is funded through the annual CFP certification fee, with a portion of that fee dedicated entirely to the campaign. So as the professional population grows, so does our campaign budget. As Kevin shared, though, our advertising team will be spending the first few months of this year retooling the campaign's creative execution. That means we won't have the large flight of spring advertising that we've had in recent years, but CFP Board will continue to communicate throughout the year about the value of CFP certification, working actively in social media, through the press, and across other channels.
Yeah, and Susan, the amount, just so everybody knows, it's the portion applied of your annual fee, the portion that's applied to the public awareness campaign is $145, or just a little over $12 a month. And that fee is set aside into a designated account, and essentially only the direct costs of the campaign are charged to it. So, as we have more CFP certificates, whatever the number of certificates times $145 forms the budget for our campaign. So, Ralph, thank you very much for that question. Lisa asks, and this is a related question, Lisa asks, she says, I haven't gotten any new clients as a result of the public awareness campaign. How much longer do you anticipate the advertising campaign and related fee will continue? Richard?
Well, Lisa, the board has authorized the campaign and the related fee to continue for as long as it continues to provide results. And as Kevin shared, we've seen great gains in consumer awareness since the launch of the campaign in 2011, and we believe that those gains will continue in coming years. As Kevin said, we're refreshing the campaign. The board looked at new creative materials just today, and we're excited about the direction that this is going to be going. The campaign's primary objective is to increase public awareness of CFP professionals and the CFP certification brand. But in recent years, we've also heard from more individual CFP professionals who've gained clients as a direct result of our campaign advertising and outreach. In last year's survey of CFP professionals, we saw a 7 percentage point increase in the number of CFP professionals who had clients or prospective clients mention our campaign advertising.
Great. Well, Lisa, thank you for that question. We have a question come in about, let me just go here, one quick one here, and then we'll go to one on the board. Why did CFP Board increase the annual certification fee last year? Susan, that was $30 additional fee.
Well, Kevin, the Board of Directors made the decision to increase the annual certification fee by $30 after careful review of the work needed to accomplish our important mission and strategic objectives. The Board has raised the certification fee only twice over the course of 12 years, while greatly expanding the value of the marks during that time. We're committed to and have demonstrated good stewardship of the funding received from CFP professionals and other stakeholders, and have made significant strides in advancing the standing of CFP certification, including increasing public awareness of CFP professionals, raising the recognition of financial planning as a viable and relevant profession, establishing an effective presence in public policy discourse on fiduciary standards, expanding educational partnerships to support current and future CFP professionals, and strengthening the rigor and integrity of the certification process.
Susan, thank you very much. Tom S. writes in, can you explain how a CFP professional can be paid for his or her work and still comply with the fiduciary standard? Getting paid seems to violate the fiduciary standard as the board has written. Richard, we'll give you that one.
Well, thank you, Tom, for that question. Just as a bit of background, I spent over 20 years as the owner of an independent trust company doing financial planning work inside of that platform. And, trust companies and trust departments of banks have been held to a fiduciary standard for at least the past several hundred years. And near as I can tell, they were never put in a position where they weren't allowed to make a living while they were doing it. And, historically, the reason that a society has imposed a fiduciary standard on a group of people, whether that's a doctor, whether that's an attorney, whether that's a trust professional, etc., the reason they've done it is because of the vast disparity in knowledge between those who are delivering the service and those who are receiving that service. In terms of the trust world, widows and orphans hundreds of years ago who were, the money was being held by a trustee, couldn't, in any way accurately judge whether they were being treated fairly or not. And so as we look to imposing a fiduciary standard on financial planners for the delivery of advice, there is no requirement that you're not allowed to make a living, a fair living, while you're doing that. Otherwise, professionals wouldn't engage in the work that they do.
Thank you, Richard. There's a couple quick ones here I think I can answer from a staff standpoint, and then we'll be wrapping it up shortly. The National Football League Players Association, writes Emmanuel, recently announced that players are only allowed to seek guidance from those who hold a CFP or a CFA charter. Did CFP Board have anything to do with this change? Have you considered marketing campaigns tailored to specific gatekeepers, such as the NFL Players Association? So, Emmanuel, just a quick answer to that. The answer is yes. Our team worked very carefully, or closely rather, with the NFL Players Association as they sought to rewrite their requirements for agents and advisors who wanted to participate in their program. Another question, somebody asks, what coordination and interface is being done with the AICPA, specifically their personal financial planning section? And appreciate that question, Stephen. Let me tell you, we have a close working relationship. Sue Coffey, who is AICPA's Executive Vice President for Professional Practice. Sue and I meet regularly, and we're looking at opportunities that we might work together. Perhaps we'll have something more to say about that down the road. I think we're coming to the close for the afternoon. Richard, what would you like to share to wrap us up for this webinar?
Well, Kevin, I appreciate everyone who took the time to join us on this webinar today, and I'm thankful for the support CFP Board receives from the CFP professional community. I'd also like to give special thanks to our Commission on Standards for all of their hard work and everyone who's been involved in the process of revising the standards of professional conduct. This review of the standards has involved a substantial amount of work over the past 2 years, and it has been great to see the profession rally in support of a fiduciary standard for financial advice. That really highlights the value our profession provides to Americans and fosters increased client trust in CFP professionals. I am pleased that CFP Board and the profession have demonstrated leadership in advancing the fiduciary standard. We look forward to working with everyone in the CFP professional community in implementing the new standards when they are finalized.
I echo Richard's appreciation for everyone listening in today. We've seen tremendous growth in the financial planning profession over the years, and that's not something CFP Board has accomplished alone. It's taken all of us working together to make financial planning into the profession it is today, and our continued cooperation and collaboration is needed to take the profession to the next level. I encourage everyone to take a look at the great initiatives our Center for Financial Planning has launched and consider how you can support this important initiative and its programs like our Women's Initiative, the I Am a CFP Pro campaign, and the new diversity initiatives that will roll out later this year. And of course, we're seeking your financial support as well as your time and expertise to advance the work of the Center. Your donation to the Center for Financial Planning will support important research and initiatives that will advance the profession of financial planning.
Well, Richard and Susan, I share your appreciation for the support of the CFP professional community. I think one thing we have just a minute or two left. One thing I want to say, so we're in the process of updating the standards. It's the first time we've done that in almost 10 years. Actually, it'll be over 10 years since we went through the process before. We had an initial proposal. Richard, as you said earlier in this webinar, we had over 1,300 comments. And those comments didn't just fall on deaf ears. The Commission on Standards, the Board of Directors took those to heart and made what I think are significant changes. We're in a momentous time. We're moving forward. We're advancing the profession of financial planning. We've had another 155 comments on this most recent round. The Board of Directors will be meeting next month to review those recommendations. And again, as we said earlier, the board had all of the comments in its board materials for this meeting. They'll be looking carefully at the comments that have come in, and we'll be carefully considering the viewpoints of all of our stakeholders and the comments that come in as we move forward. Together, all of us, I think, all of our stakeholders have accomplished much in the recent years. Over the past 10 years, CFP Board has worked to be an effective leader and strengthen the value of the CFP marks. We have steadily increased the number of CFP professionals while raising the standards for CFP certification. Our voice in Washington has been amplified through our work with the Financial Planning Coalition. And we have elevated the stature of the CFP marks and the reputation of CFP Board, elevating the profession in turn. All of this has been accomplished together with the shared dedication to serving the public and increasing the relevance of CFP certification. I'd like to thank Richard and Susan and the entire Board of Directors for their leadership and commitment to CFP certification. And specifically, I want to appreciate from those of us at the staff level, we appreciate the clarity with which you've identified the priorities for CFP Board. When we're on the staff side, it makes it much easier to deliver results aligned with the board's priorities when we know what those priorities are. So thank you for that clarity. I also encourage all of you listening to contact CFP Board when you can contribute to one of our initiatives or when you have new ideas or you have things that you want us to know. Thank you all for sharing this update on CFP Board's work. This concludes our webinar today. A recording of this presentation will be posted to CFP Board's website within the next week, and CFP Board will follow up with those of you who asked questions that we did not have time to address during this broadcast. So long from Arlington, Virginia.